How is Hamas in every house?
Well, let's just talk about that for a second. I don't give a if Hamas is in a hospital. That doesn't give you the right to blow it up.
Right.
Just like if there's a school shooter in a school and your kids are there, do you want them to blow up the school?
Great point. Great point. Yeah.
Like, guy robs you in Compton. Do you just carpet bomb Compton?
Right.
Like,
yeah. During these riots.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, during the riots, during George Floyd.
What logic is that?
Yeah. During the riots, during George Floyd, we didn't drop bombs on those people rioting and stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's not what you do. You don't kill civilians.
Israel's got rules for thee, but not for me. At least that's the theme Dan Bilzerian is calling out in this explosive sit-down. From carpet bombing excuses to humanitarian aid workers getting obliterated despite registering with IDF. The double standards are off the chart. Imagine letting someone crash on your couch and next thing you know, they're evicting you from your own house. Yeah, that's the level of madness we're dealing with. And Dan, he's not holding back. He goes from red pill to full-blown demolition mode, exposing just how deep the propaganda runs. Buckle up. This one's not for the faint of heart.
So, I mean, and it's not like they don't have like tip of the spear military technology. They've got snipers, they've got, you know, all sorts of things, drones, whatever. And they could be conducting Navy SEAL operations, kicking in doors, you know, killing the Hamas leaders. They don't need to carpet bomb refugee camps. They don't need to blow up hospitals. They don't need to blow up mosques.
Right.
Like, I don't care if there is a bad guy in there. If there's a bunch of women and children, you don't blow it up.
They blew up a truck of humanitarian aid that was coming in. The people in the truck and everything. And they got the stickers saying it's humanitarian aid, and they blew them up and killed them. They said, oh, they thought they were pretending to be.
You talking about the soup kitchen workers that registered with the IDF and told them their exact positions, and then they targeted them?
Yeah.
And they were in different cars, and they blew up each car, not just one. It wasn't just like one rogue missile. It's like, no, they targeted these cars, that these cars registered with the IDF and said, hey, we are doing, you know, humanitarian aid. We're feeding these people. These are our cars. And they blew them up. And then, and you see these like, these groups, like on Telegram, they're like laughing about it. You know, they have like video of, you know, they're like holding up the passports and smiling over the dead bodies and shit and like celebrating. And it's like, these are aid workers, idiots. Like,
I mean, I was so proud. I used to be the biggest cuck for Israel. When Kanye went on Alex Jones' show, I was like, man, this dude's anti-Semitic. And I was on, I was a moron, right? And I was on TikTok looking at videos, right? And these people said, free Palestine. I said, what are these people talking? Where the hell is Palestine at? Never heard,
Oh.
So I Googled it and I was like, oh shit, this place used to be called UK Palestine. And I started doing my research, and a Jewish lady on TikTok, she said, I lived in Palestine. She was Jewish. She said everybody's passports had Palestine. He said it actually existed before they turned to Israel in 46, 48.
Yeah.
He said it was Jews, Muslims, and Palestinians living
Christians
there.
too, right?
And Christians, yeah. But the majority was not Jewish people. Yeah. It was Muslim.
Yeah, I mean, they went over there and they just, you know, murdered a bunch of people. They stole their homes. I mean, my friend Mohammed Hadid, Gigi and Bella Hadid's dad, they let in Jewish refugees, and the Jewish refugees kicked them out of their own house. Can you imagine letting people into your house, like, come in, you know, we'll save you, and then they kick you out of your own home? Like, it's just such a crazy concept.
Yeah. Why do you think, Republicans, like, I think Democrats get what's going on in Israel to the Palestinian people, I think, and that's saying something because Democrats are freaking idiots. Why do you think they get it and Republicans don't get it?
Well, I think they're kind of like the broken clock is right once a day type of thing, you know, or twice a day, whatever.
Right.
I think that they see the settler colonialism or whatever, and they've been programmed with this whole like white supremacy is the problem in America. And so they see that as like white supremacy. They see the obvious apartheid. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, what's going on over there. The two sets of justice, the persecution. And so I think the Jewish narrative that has been pushed to these people has kind of backfired because, you know, the Jewish Democrats say, oh, white supremacy is the problem. And, you know, racism is the problem and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we need DEI and we need all this stuff. And then the Republican Jews say, oh, it's the terrorists, it's the jihadists, right? So they kind of like, they both blame all these different groups when it's the Jews that are causing all these problems. But the diversion, you know, it keeps the right thinking, oh, the terrorists, right? Like we got programmed. Like every movie I ever saw, the terrorists are the bad guys. The jihadi terrorists. They were always the bad guys. They always had a turban on.
Muslim.
Always Muslim. Always,
Never Israeli.
Never Israeli. No. And so you get programmed with this stuff and you see it enough and you just, you start to think, okay, well, these are just bad people and you dehumanize them. I was in the military. I was in the military 4 years. My friends, I just remember being in there. It's like, yeah, these Hajis and, they come up with names for them. And then later on, they kind of look back and they're like, what if that wasn't a bad guy? What if that was me? What if somebody showed up in my house and kicked my door in? I'd grab my gun and defend myself. That's what that guy did. And I killed him for it, And I think when you dehumanize a population, it's easy to rationalize out doing this stuff. And so that's what they do. They tell the right, like, these are Muslims, they're all terrorists, they're the scumbags, they're the problem. And so
They're
you
all
have all
inbred. They always say they're all inbred savages. Animals.
Yeah, inbred, camel, goat, whatever, all this stuff, And I bought into it too, man.
They do camel and sheep. Rednecks do it too. Rednecks do it too.
There might be some truth in the goat part, but regardless, you get indoctrinated with this stuff, and then you're just like, well, they're the problem, and then you just shut everything off. And so I think that's why they've still got the right saying, Israel are they're the white guys, they're the cultured people, they're they have a democracy, they're the only democracy in the Middle East, and they're living amongst
that's
these
a democracy in Israel.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so, but that's what they're programmed with.
Right.
It's like that's the one country that's like us,
right?
And they're surrounded by all these bad guys, and we got to help them. And
it's just a big lie.
it's just bullshit.
Yeah, I have no man. What the hell were they thinking putting a bunch of white-looking Jews around a bunch of Arabs? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's the funny thing is, they talk about Semites, and most of the Israelis are not actual Semites. They're from Europe. They're Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews. And they did the DNA studies. I think it was like John Hopkins did a DNA study, and like 80% of the Palestinians are like actual Semites that are linked to that land.
Right.
And like 97% of the Israelis are not. And so, and then you find out that DNA testing is illegal in Israel. Like you have to get a court order to get a DNA test. And this is like one thing of the long laundry list of, of hypocrisy of like, the owner of 23andMe is Jewish, but they don't allow that there.
Right.
The owner of Pornhub, the owner of OnlyFans, like the owners of all these like porn sites are Jewish, but they don't allow that in Israel. In the U.S., it's open borders. In the U.K., it's open borders. It's race mixing. It's, do this, diversity this, diversity that.
Right.
Not in Israel. Show me how many Jewish Israeli women are married to black guys.
Yeah.
And show me how many, Israeli men are married to black women. It's like it doesn't happen there. And you know what happened when they had black Jews go there from Ethiopia? They sterilized them. I'm not making this up. You can Google it and you'll see it in like Haaretz or whatever. Because I use Jewish publications because they rat on themselves all the time.
Right.
And so that's what they did. So when the actual black Jews went there, they sterilized them.
How did they do that?
They gave them birth control that sterilized them, like without their consent, without their knowing it.
They told him it was like aspirin or something?
Well, I don't know what the premise was, but you can.
He probably thought it was Tylenol.
Yeah, look at there you go, right there.
Ethiopian women in Israel giving contraception without consent.
Yeah, and some of those contraceptives were like permanent.
Oh, so they did it to the women.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm not making this shit up. Like, and I didn't like I said, like the more you start to dig and the more you find out about this stuff, the more up it is. And then it's like, oh, it's just the Israeli government. And then you look at the polls. It's like, no, like 65% of the Israelis like are on board with this or think that they should be using more force. So it's like the population is behind this nonsense, and a lot of them think they're not, doing enough.
Right.
And
I had we got invited to Israel. I didn't go because that's an accident waiting to happen. I look just like Hamas. So when I see our leaders go over there like Trump, I see I had a person go over there that I knew. To walk down certain places in Jerusalem or in Israel, you have to wear their hat. What's it called?
a yarmulke.
Yarmulke. Just to walk down the street, you have to wear that. Or if you go inside of one of their Trump had to wear it. Obama had to wear it. Everybody who goes over there, you have to wear the hat.
Well, you want to be wearing the hat, or else you have spit on.
Right, because I see a lot of Christians.
You get spit on?
Yeah, they spit on Christians. Yeah, if they see a cross or they know that you're Christian or you have a Bible, they'll spit on you. And they openly say it. That's another thing you can Google.
It's a tradition, right, Dan?
Yeah, no, they say it. Yeah, it's a Jewish tradition. It's like, and that's what I'm saying is like,
I came across those videos.
and it's like, oh, we've been persecuted. It's like, no, you guys have been acting like assholes, spitting on Christians, poisoning their wells, killing children. Doing...
Were they like Ethiopian or something?
No,
they look kind of dark.
Oh, I mean, there's no shortage of these
video.
videos. There's like literally thousands of these videos.
Yeah.
If you want to find videos of Jews spitting on Christians, there was no end to that. There will be thousands.
So
and thousands.
why did? That's what I don't get. You have Christians here in America, especially within our government, and then you see Christians how they're getting persecuted and treated over there in Israel. It's like I don't even understand what's the conflict between when it comes between different religions. I mean, they told us a bunch of lies about Muslims. They say Israel's our greatest ally, but when you see what they do to Christians over there, spitting and mocking them, and they willing, while in the United States they call out a lot of hate here, but it's like I think it's all just BS here, and they are the true haters. I mean, can you actually say that these people that occupy Israel right now are they actually Semitic people?
I don't think they're Semites, and I think they hate Christians. And I think we're taught that, Judeo-Christian values, which is just a bullshit word.
Right.
Because,
I don't even know what that means.
It means bullshit. It means utter bullshit. So Peter Schaefer, he was the head of Judaic studies at Princeton for like 15 years, and he was the director of the Jewish Museum in Berlin, and very well-read. And he wrote a book called Jesus in the Talmud. And he talks about, what the Talmud says about Jesus, and that basically he's a, total scumbag piece of shit. He's in hell. He's burning in human feces and sperm, and that the Virgin Mary's a whore, and, all this stuff. And so the idea of Judeo-Christian values, when one group thinks that, and not just one group, it's not just the Christians that think that Jesus was a great man. Well, they think he's God or whatever, but the Muslims, they think that Jesus was a great prophet. So these two religions are actually like pretty similar. One thinks he's God, one thinks he's a great prophet, but either way, it's, the majority of the world thinks that Jesus is a great man. It's only the Jews that don't. They're literally like the only ones that think he was a piece of shit.
Well, they killed him, right? Them and the Romans, right?
Well, they definitely killed him for sure. Well, they ordered it. I mean, it's kind of like, if the president orders an assassination, the president killed you, not the person that like shows up at your door, right? So, like, it's not the guy that was like wielding the axe, the guy that told the guy wielding the axe to kill you. So, the Jews definitely killed Jesus. It's unequivocal. And the weird thing is that was just like undisputed, agreed upon knowledge until recently. And I remember it was like, I don't know how many years ago, but not that long ago, I just like Googled, did the Jews kill Jesus? And it was like 14 articles saying no. And it's like, what? Like the Bible says it, like, wait, what are you guys talking about? And it's crazy. And then, you look, it's like Google is Jewish owned. AI is Jewish owned. It's like all these things like OpenAI, like all this stuff. And so you just get really like biased information, but even with that biased information, you can still find the truth.
Yeah, right. You can.
And the truth is that, they think Jesus is a piece of shit. And
now, Jesus, he was Jew, right? He was a Jew, right?
Well, so he, that's kind of disputed. I think he was more of a Palestinian than a Jew. I mean,
Well, that makes a lot of sense now.
yeah.
Well, they're all Semites.
Yeah. Palestinians, the Jews that were there in that era, they're Semitic.
Well, it
Yeah, the
explains why they
Sephardic
hate him
Jews.
so much, Keith. He's Palestinian.
Dan isn't just onto something, he's on fire. First off, the logic here is laughable. If one bad guy in a hospital justifies bombing the entire building, then by that standard, any city with a criminal should be leveled. Guess what? We don't drop missiles on Chicago every weekend. Second, the propaganda is so thick, you'd think it was a Hollywood script. Oh wait, who runs Hollywood again? Dan's just pointing out the obvious. When the rules are different depending on who's holding the gun, it's not justice, it's an agenda. Love him or hate him, he's not wrong. But if the truth was really on their side, why would they need so much propaganda to defend it? And if fighting terrorism requires killing civilians, then who's really the terrorist? Let me know down in the comments what you think. Is Dan just talking out of his ass, or is he the only one brave enough to say what everyone's thinking? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, y'all, and I hope to catch you in the next one.